I'm doing well. So last week, we were talking about the changeover in coaches, managers for the Cardinals. And you said, look, here's the deal. He's waits for the ninth inning, Matheny. He doesn't, she doesn't do what the game might have a pivotal point in the fifth inning, and he waits and he keeps his gun loaded and doesn't use his bullets. And that is exactly, I think it was your column, about what happened over the weekend yesterday, was it not, with Miles Michaelis and taking him out in the fifth and pinch hitting and all that type of stuff?
Well, the column. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, was that your column?
My column was about the bullpen and how it's it doesn't matter whether Mike Matheny is managing or Mike Shildt or at this point Joe Madden. This isn't a bullpen that's going to get any manager to the playoffs. Now, that doesn't mean that Mike Matheny didn't mismanage it at times, not just this season, but in the past. That was going on for 6.5 years. But twice now you've seen Mike Shildt try to be aggressive in the small sample size of games that he's managed for the St. Louis Cardinals. And one time it has worked. In his first game out, it worked. They pulled a starter for a pinch hitter, got an RBI, ended up winning. Yesterday, it moved in the other direction on him. He pulled Miles Michaelis. It was his shortest, his lowest pitch count of the season. Try to get Jed Jerko in there, didn't happen, and then the bullpen blows up. It doesn't. Mike Shildt is trying to trust his guys. He's kind of trying to give everybody this fresh start chance, but they've got some guys in this bullpen who are making it very hard to win games. They don't have a lefty they can trust against a guy like Kyle Schwarber, whose power disappears against left-handed pitchers. And then they have a lot of guys who just get in there and can't stick around very long. So they got to do something. I know they're not going to make win now moves, but they got to do something to refresh and give some fresh options in this bullpen if they're going to be serious about trying to squeeze out a wild card berth here. If not, it's going to be over.
Ken Rosenthal said something interesting over the weekend. He said that he doesn't know what the Cardinals have that the other teams would want if the Cardinals started to become sellers, which was a pretty good point. What do the Dodgers, what do the Yankees, what do the Astros, what do they want and need that the Cardinals have?
A few guys would make sense. You have Jose Martinez right off the top, who is has been one of the best hitters on this team until Matt Carpenter went bananas.
Right.
Jose's been one of the most reliable hitters, and he doesn't have a position to play defensively. He is the definition of a DH. If a team was looking to go that route, he's a name that would make a lot of sense. If the Cardinals go full on, like, hey, let's get rid of guys who don't have a long-term future here, maybe they look to move Bud Norris, who's been very good. Bud Norris and Jordan Hicks have been, two of the lone bright spots in this bullpen, performance-wise. And Bud Norris is, you could try to take advantage of that contract because he's probably not going to be here for the long term. And then another guy would be, if you're thinking along those lines, like, if somebody would want this would be a little more unlike the Cardinals, but they've at least considered taking options on Carlos Martinez. If a team's looking to add starting pitching, Carlos has a very team-friendly deal. Cardinals would want a lot for him, but you're seeing some starting pitchers moved at the deadline in seasons past that are getting quite the haul.
Right.
And if the Cardinals feel like their frustrations with him, throughout the course of this season, it was really supposed to be kind of a year for him to step up and be that ace caliber pitcher. And he struggled with some injuries. He's also struggled with some off the field things. And if they were ready to cut that tie, and I'm not sure that they are, but I do think they would be willing to listen to an offer that wowed them.
Yeah. You're a lot closer to this than we are, but this Mike Shildt, I love the guy, right? I mean, he never played professional baseball. He's been started off shining cleats in single A for the Baltimore Orioles and has worked his way up. I love this guy. What a great baseball story.
Pretty impressive story. And no matter what happens, it's cool to see him get this opportunity. There's usually a glass ceiling on guys who don't play the game, and he's shattered through every one of them. And he has the ultimate respect to these guys in this clubhouse. He's managed a lot of them in the minor leagues. Even Jose Martinez the other day. This is a guy who's gone from starting and having more RBIs than any first baseman in the National League to back to being a bench player and he's saying, yeah, I might get traded. I understand what's going on, but I want to make it clear that I love Mike Shildt because he helped me at AAA when I was basically broken from being traded by the Royals. I mean, these guys love this guy, and I think fans and the media are going to enjoy interacting with him because he's really candid and was willing to describe decisions. Like yesterday, he was the one who brought up, hey, if I could do it over again, I probably would have left Miles Michaelis in another inning, but here's why I made the decisions. The game before that, he walked through why he made double switches. He walked through why they had Colton Wong bunt, and it didn't work out. I mean, he's very candid, and I think Cardinals fans, dating back to Tony La Russa, have appreciated a manager who will say, hey, here's what I did, here's why I did it. You can disagree if you want, but I want you to know my reasoning. And I think fans appreciate that.
I'm not so sure that the fans appreciated Tony La Russa saying that. I mean, some of us did. I loved when he would sit and have a baseball conversation with you. But there was a whole bunch of other fans who just didn't like him because, I don't know, because he was the Cardinal manager, and that's what you have to do. You have to hate your home team's manager.
well, winning helps.
Right.
But I do think a lot of fans, and there were certainly some fans who didn't agree with Tony at times, and there were some media members who got into it with him at times.
Right.
But you're talking about a guy who would go on the radio and have call-ins and debate people about baseball moves. And I think what it speaks to is a confidence. And that's not. I know you think I'm out to get Mike Matheny, but I do think that there's a difference between a guy who's managing at that level for the first time. He almost feels like he's threatened a little bit, or like he has to guard his decision-making process because people are ready to pick it apart, and that's probably some truth to that. But I do think Mike Shildt, because he's managed everywhere at every level, he's managed a lot of games, even though we haven't watched him do it. And he might not make every right decision. He'll be the first to say that. But he is going to make decisions that he's confident and comfortable in, and he has no problem explaining why after they're made, no matter how they turn out. And I think that's a change of pace for this fan base, and I think that's something that people are going to appreciate.
So with that being said, put that into your ball and try and read the tea leaves for what the management's thinking long term. The bullpen's not going to get much better. He'll have some. He's sort of healing some of the wounds, I guess, from some of the hard feelings or whatever from the past. So is he the favorite to be the head coach going next year, or is he just a placeholder until they can find a bigger name?
Yeah, it's a fair question, and one the Cardinals, when asked, have said that this is an extended interview for him, is the phrase that they've used, and we have followed up and said, well, what do you mean? Like, how do you measure this?
Right.
And they say it's not just wins, it's not just sneaking into the postseason. They're looking for an improved energy. They're looking for improvements in some of the things that they got tired of watching, which was some bad base running at times and some subpar defense. And they're looking for a better overall kind of vibe from this team. And I think you're seeing that to some degree. You wanted to win this series, obviously, and losing this series is a bummer for the Cardinals because they actually left Wrigley Field in a worse spot than they showed up
right.
In the standings, and it didn't feel like that kind of a series really until yesterday's loss. I do think you're seeing the offense benefit from a change of pace there. You're seeing an offense be more aggressive and go out and look to hit as opposed to whatever it was doing before. They did, Matt Carpenter has really kind of single-handedly lifted an offense as much as possible here, but I like the approach offensively better. And then you're looking for kind of, what you'd like to see is some sort of a run, a rally under Shildt. Now, maybe that's asking too much of this team. It would certainly help his case. I don't think that has to happen for the Cardinals to consider him. But if this season winds up being just a continuation of the same kind of win-loss, one step forward, one step back, that happened under Matheny, then I do think it hurts his chance of being the guy long-term for sure.
Two things. One, I remember last year they said, bring back Okendo. The defense is terrible. Well, the defense isn't any better this year, and Okendo's there as well. And then secondly, what's the salsa? What's the salsa directions? I need that stuff. It sounds like Fountain of Youth stuff.
Yeah, something like that. I guess they need to give it to I said they need to have the bullpen chug a jar of it before every one of those guys takes the mound. I know God couldn't make Jose Martinez a first baseman, so I'm not going to knock Jose Okendo for not being able to do it. Some of these errors, a lot of them have come at times when the Cardinals are clearly playing guys out of position to try to help the offense.
Right.
But it is valid to point out that the defense-first initiative that Shildt is now operating on in the infield is still leading to too many errors. Paul DeYoung has got him piling up at shortstop in this series. You had Jed Jerko miss a few plays. Matt Carpenter, who's in for Jose Martinez at first base, missed a hop. Defensively, you had balls getting hit down the line. So I see it, and that's a valid point. Somehow this major league team has kind of lost track of some of the fundamentals that make Cardinals baseball, and every coach on the staff is partly responsible for that. I think it's weird that you seem to have better fundamentals seemingly being taught at the minor league levels than you do at the major league levels. And you've got younger guys at the major leagues, so they need to spend more time actually doing some of these things. And some of them, the worst guys are the veterans. It seems like they need to figure out how to keep guys sharper defensively throughout the course of a season.
I just want on the record that I got like 3 valid points comments from you in this segment today.
I just want to I wanted to be nice so we can talk about the salsa.
All right, fair enough.
Salsa, for folks who haven't heard, is ultimately this comes back to Adam Wainwright getting the credit, I think, as most things do. Adam Wainwright's out. He loves gardening. He's gardened for years. He finds it, it's kind of his peaceful place off the field. He's been trying to get Matt Carpenter into it because Carpenter likes to make salsa. He makes his own salsa, but he's never had his own garden here in St. Louis. So one day the Cardinals are on the road, and legend has it Adam Wainwright just shows up at his house and starts putting a garden in his backyard. And we're not talking about a tomato plant or two. This guy put in everything from peppers to spices to strawberries.
A whole watering system, it sounds like.
Everything, jalapenos. So now Matt Carpenter is making salsa from his own garden, and this was the first time he took it on the road, and he had a historic series against the Cubs. He lets Dexter Fowler have a little bit of it. Dexter Fowler has a 2-hit day, which is probably more remarkable than what Carpenter did at this point, considering how bad he's been. So I think they got to get some jars to Cincinnati for the bullpen, and then you see how this comes around. It's just a kind of a fun story, and it was fun to see Carpenter having fun.
Yeah.
Because he had such a terrible start, and he's really blown out of it. He's one of the best hitters, one of the hottest hitters in baseball right now, and probably, I don't know that he will be, but based off of just his numbers alone, probably deserves some discussion in MVP-type talks. Now, I don't think he'll get it, but that's how good he's been since.
Ben Frederickson, sports columnist. Valid points. A couple of valid points from you today. We'll take it. All right.